Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the 2025 Concord School District Board of Education Forum for the Zone B seat. I got that all out at once. I'm Tony Chanella, the local senior editor for Concord, New Hampshire Patch at Concord TV Studios. This forum is being recorded on September 29th. Before we get started and introduce the candidates, I just want to say again, like I do each and every time, thank you, a huge thank you to Concord TV for allowing us to use their studios and present our candidates here in the city. We were just talking about it earlier. I think it's been almost 10 years now we've been doing this, and it's just such a great partnership, and I'm forever grateful for Michael and Josh and everybody here who's been helping us over the years. You're going to be hearing from the two candidates vying for one seat. They'll be on the ballot in November 4th. They represent wards 5, 6, and 7. We have challenger Jeff Wells, and also he is facing off against incumbent Kara Meeker, who's seeking her second term. She was elected 3 years ago. Jeff, ladies first, okay?
Sure.
Excellent. Kara, you have 1 minute opening statement.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for Concord TV for pointing me toward the camera so that I know who to talk to. My name is Kara Meeker. I am your Zone B representative on the Concord School Board. I've been serving for 3 years now, and I am asking for your vote to re-elect me for a second term. 3 years ago, I sat right here in this studio talking to Tony, running for an office for the very first time and not quite sure what to say. And really what came out was that if you want to vote for me, please know that as a school board member, I will care deeply about the families, the students, the staff, and the city and our taxpayers. And I will commit to the work. I will learn everything that I can and be involved as I can. 3 years later, I kind of am making the same pitch. I have a lot of work under my belt. I have 3 years now, but I'm still letting you know that I care deeply. I'm committed to the process, and I'm just happy to be here. The work is hard and meaningful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Opening statement, Jeff, 1 minute.
Hello, my name is Jeff Wells. I'm proud to be running for Concord School Board, Zone B, representing wards 5, 6, and 7. Concord's been my home now for over 30 years. It's where my wife and I raised our family, where my son went through our public schools during the elementary school rebuild, and where I built my career and where I've invested time and energy as a neighbor and as an active member of the community. Our schools are at the heart of our community, but today we face a tough challenge, many tough challenges, rising costs, major projects, difficult decisions that affect every student, parent, and taxpayer. I'm running because I believe Concord deserves leadership that is open, honest, and accountable. My commitment is simple. I will represent your voice, not just my opinion, in every decision. If elected, I will put students first in every budget decision, keep schools strong while keeping spending responsible, and make sure the community is fully heard before big votes are taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Kara, let's go to you first. Whether fairly or not, there was a fury in the community when a lame duck school board voted by a vote of 6-3 to move the new middle school project to East Concord in December 2023. The school district is now embarking on an information session for a new building on October 7th and a public hearing on October 23rd. We're all presuming that there's going to be some sort of vote after that public hearing. But about 15 years ago, this community was promised there would be no middle school project until the elementary schools, which cost us $90.8 million, were paid off, which is in 2041. And for years, you and your colleagues on the board have been telling the community there would be no middle school unless there was state aid. 40%, in fact. We've applied for 40%, and that's what we need. So there's no state aid. There's no 40%. There's zero state aid. So why are you and your colleagues, I guess, repeatedly making promises to the public as a collective, and also pushing this project now when the financials are not ideal without the state aid?
Sure. Okay. So that's lots of points in that question, and I appreciate it. I wasn't on the board when promises were made not to build the middle school as long as we had debt on the elementary schools. I do think that the debt that we have currently on the elementary schools is manageable, and I think that we are in a healthy position to take on more debt for capital projects that are necessary. We've been working on the middle school project since 2017, when former boards made the decisions based on the information they had in front of them about whether to renovate or rebuild. They chose to rebuild. How they wanted to design the school with modern technology, with options for auditoriums and music space and maker space. These are all things that teachers and families were asking for, so they've created a design based on the needs of the community. It does come with a cost. I commend the people that took the initiative to apply for building aid, because it is a financial investment just to even create that request, with the potential that we could get millions of dollars in state aid. I don't fault anyone for attempting to get money that is there. Unfortunately, the state did not come through. They said that they would. We placed very high on the list and it fell through. All through this timeline is the fact that we still need a new school. So we can't just stop. There is no way to move forward without continuing to consider what kind of middle school we want now and in the future. So we continue to make those decisions.
Jeff, she took a minute and a half, and that's perfectly fine. I threw a lot at you.
Sorry, thank
so
you.
You're going to get the same amount of time. I'm going to ask you a little bit a different way.
Okay.
If you were on the board now, instead of running against Kara for the seat, what would you be doing differently, while at the same time understanding that there are many people in the community who want a new middle school and have wanted one for a long time, and frankly they wanted it in East Concord when you didn't too?
Right. Well, I understand that. I think what I would do differently is I wouldn't keep the inflated price that we have of the middle school right now. It's at $164 million, maybe cut back to $155. The price of this building has been inflated from the beginning, and ever since they did school building aid. Right now, I don't think the current board has done enough to try to bring the price down. I have proposed directly to a couple of board members and in front of the board of a potential design change, taking the existing design for Runlet, cutting out both the gymnasium and the multi-purpose room, and using the old parts of the current Runlet building for those purposes. That could bring a lot forward. It cuts down the square footage and could save tens of millions of dollars. Along with that design is also to cut out maybe 1 or 2 athletic fields. Building a ton of new athletic fields at Memorial Field, and again more at the new Runlet School, is just it's redundant, and we can't afford that.
I'm going to follow up with you, Jeff, in a second, but I want to come back to Kara for a minute. It just, again, when you look at the figures, it's cut down 164 to 155.7, but that doesn't count the interest. And I keep having this battle every year with school board members, because you're not really being honest with the taxpayers about what the final cost of this building is. So I looked at the latest data, and at 4%, it's going to be about $220 million with no state aid. At 4.5%, it's going to be about $284 million, depending on if you spend all the $25 million in reserves that you have, or you spend less. And there's no guarantee, because we're still paying for the bond on the third wing of the middle school now. That tax did not go down. We're still paying for the high school tax from the 1990s. So there's nothing to say we're ever going to get out of the elementary school tax that we're paying, or the Runlet tax in 2070, whenever it's finished off. So here's the point, though, and here's the question. We are in the middle of a reassessment, and most properties are averaging now $350,000, which means they're going to see a permanent $300 a year tax increase every year. And that doesn't include the new assessments. I do not hear from a single person in the community clamoring for a new middle school at this price. So have you? What I've heard is, in what I have you and agree with you, lots of parents have spoken to you. They want something new. They don't like the school, even though it's only 60 years old. And we don't knock down 60-year-old schools here. we knocked down 110-year-old schools here. But so I hear that too.
Sure.
And then when you tell them what the price is, they go, oh no, that's not what I want. So I'm wondering, where is the clamoring? I have not heard anybody, when you tell them what the real cost of the school is, clamoring for a new school. Have you?
I absolutely have, and I want to be very sensitive to the fact that the property tax situation is an issue that needs attention. The costs of the district, which the vast majority is, already contracted, right? Those are things that we have to pay for salaries, for medical insurance. We have rising costs across the board, transportation, food. Like, I am very aware of the many costs that impact the tax rate. As far as the school goes, over time, right? This is how capital projects work. And I understand your concern about the interest rate and the total cost. This is a perspective that you have reflected in, over the years of these forums. Anytime you have to borrow, you have interest. Without having cash up front, you have to borrow. This is just a reality that any municipality or any homeowner faces when they need to incur debt. I don't think it's unreasonable to talk about the total cost, but it's also reasonable to say that this isn't out of the ordinary for how we invest in our community. When families talk about the cost of the middle school, they absolutely say, whoa, that price is very high. Why is it so high? So it's a matter of explaining the pinch that we're in. We need a new middle school. This is the price. I know it feels inflated. We do have excellent architects, excellent firms that, we will pay good money because they produce good product. But we are living in a post-COVID construction world where none of the costs have gone down. Costs are only going up. So we're in this push and pull, yes, the price is high. Oops, sorry, I'm touching my microphone. The price is high, but it's only getting higher. So when do we dive in? Do we dive in now knowing that we have to really buckle down and find cost savings where we can elsewhere in the budget so that we can accommodate this added expense? Or do we kick the can down the road only to spend more in the long run? Or do we try to find a half measure that unfortunately does not accommodate the current needs of the modern educational space?
So millions of dollars on soccer fields, like Jeff said, or any fields, less than a mile from the largest field in the city, that's in your plan. I mean, it's not even a practice space, it's two fields. I mean, the basketball court isn't needed, but that's only $250,000.
Sure.
You were only talking a little bit of money when you start nibbling away at some of the smaller things.
And we have tried. I mean, we have the building committee especially, comprised of both citizens and school board members, have come together to say, okay, what can we shave off, right? Outdoor learning spaces, gone. Outdoor stage, gone. Full auditorium, can't do it. Let's do a smaller auditorium that still accommodates need while understanding that costs are, need to come down. This is the push and pull. This is actually our job, is, to oversee the superintendent and the vision of the district, and to be thoughtful and create a reasonable budget and try to find where we can, make, additions where we can, investments where we can. It's a process.
Jeff, one of the things people don't understand in our community, especially people who have moved here recently, is the fact that you're basically a volunteer. The school district is long hours, less than a penny an hour, Kara.
Yes,
I don't go to
affirm.
meetings anymore. It's not worth my time. But I watch them on YouTube. Thank God for these guys.
Yeah.
But seriously, most people don't know that it's a volunteer position, and the district it has autonomy over its budget. You guys have nibbled away at that with your group, but you're not really, if you are elected, make the pitch. You're going to be one of 9 who's basically going to have to look and tinker with all of these little things and figure out a way to get everybody on the same page with how you view things.
Right.
What have you done in your professional life that you think that you can say to voters, this is how we need to do it differently?
Well, I haven't mentioned that yet, but I was in IT for over 40 years. And so I did corporate stuff for 10 years. I consulted for 10. And then I spent 22 years at the state of New Hampshire. And most of those years were involved in projects. And projects were defining an application system, going into a company and figuring out what they needed to do to meet their business processes. And so I constantly had to go in and learn a business. I had to ask the right questions. I had to meet the right people. And then I had to deliver something within the budget. And we always worked from a budget. We didn't work from something that we built to a grand scale and then held them to that. We had to package things and complete our work in an amount of time that was within what we were being paid for. So I will use those skills again just to keep my pulse, keep the pulse of the constituents, taxpayers, close to me, and see where people stand on all the important issues before I vote.
Jeff, I want to stick with you because the group that you were involved in, the Concord Concerned Citizens, you successfully gave voters some things to vote on in the last election. On whether or not to close any or relocate schools and property and other land sales. However, your efforts have kind of been sandbagged by the legal interpretation of the district to allow the sale of the Eastman School on the ballot without knowing who will buy it or what will be built there. Your effort, as well, as successful as you were, also didn't do anything to protect us from a $250 million middle school that most people that I talk to do not want to pay for.
Right.
Shouldn't you have seen this coming while you were in the process of collecting signatures and realized that you should have come forward with a more thorough proposal to protect taxpayers?
I don't think so. Not at the time. The idea behind protecting or having voter input on the sale of the property was relative to the Runlet School. So if the school was going to move over to broken ground in East Concord, then the neighbors or the community around the Runlet School was very concerned about what would happen to that property and how it was developed. I disagree with a lawyer's interpretation of what was written. I thought it was very clear that the voters would have a specific say and they should know who's buying the property, what is the property worth, and who are the bidders and who they are and what's going to be the purpose of the building. And I believe the people of East Concord that live around the Eastman School are going to demand that.
Sure. Kara,
yeah,
you can respond to the question that I gave Jeffrey about that, but I'd like to ask you a little bit more specifically with the amendments. You, and I believe there was only one school board member who actively said they were going to vote for one of them, one of the two questions. I believe you and your colleagues were all against them. Yet the voters in the Zone B seat approved of both ballot questions by 68%, which even shocked me considering it's Ward 5, where I live. But what have you done any reflection post-election on the position you took when the voters basically said your position was not right or we want this, or have you thought about that at all?
I mean, I honestly think about my constituents every single day, truly, honestly. When it came to the amendments, I cautioned early on that I thought that the language was vague and that it could be interpreted in a way legally that does not match up with the sentiment of the proponents. I also am protective of the autonomy of the school board because from my perspective, our community actually gets sort of a double layer of protection. They have a city council that is elected to represent them on matters of the city, and they have elected school board members that are protective of the education space. So you actually have more representation in our town where the two bodies can really focus on the issues that are important within those spaces. It's going to sound really dorky. I love democracy. I genuinely do. My background is in policy. I was absolutely impressed with the ability of the proponents to advocate for the amendments, to get the votes that they did. My takeaway from that is that our community wants to have more buy-in, whatever that looks like, on the choices and decisions we make. And so that could look like forming committees so that neighborhoods could be more involved in what a sale of a property looks like. It could also look like better communication from the board, a task that our city and community committee could engage in. But these are, of course, all things I reflect on because I genuinely care about our city and the people that I talk to and the families and staff. And, again, I'm stopping because you told me to stop, but I could chit chat about this all day.
Well, maybe I'll let me follow up with something a little bit different. But whether fairly or not, the Board of Education has been described as tone deaf, not transparent, arrogant, even clueless when it came to one of the recent hires when you didn't really know the background of the person who was hired. They weren't a criminal or anybody. It was just something that went away later. At the same time, making everybody in the city happy is not an easy thing to do. If you're reelected in the next 3 years, what would you do specifically? Give me 2-3 things what you would do specifically to improve the tenor of the board and its relationship with the public. And I'll ask you, Jeff, I'll ask you the same questions. Okay.
Sure. For me, the first 3 years that I had to gain perspective on the relationship between the city and the school board, it takes a while to figure out the dynamic of that relationship. I think it's extremely important. Do I think that there should be side channels between counselors and board members? No, I think the process should be formalized. I think everyone should be properly informed. But I think that it is silly to think that the taxpayers don't understand that these are they're two different issues, but they're all coming from the same taxpayer bucket. So the more we can work together, the more we can sort of bridge build with the city, particularly on something like the Memorial Field project, I think it's going to give our citizens just a reassurance that information isn't being missed and that we are not sort of in competition with each other, because why would we be? We are all one city. The other thing is, we really have a hard time navigating the open meetings law and the way we have to formalize how we communicate with our constituents. When people come to a meeting, they are taking time out of their day to sit in front of a board where they cannot communicate directly with us. It's formal, it's necessary, and it feels awful sometimes. It feels very awkward, like you're not being listened to. So it's really about being open about the limitations and then finding ways that we can add to what we already have in place.
So basically the question is, what would I do differently to, okay.
So let me ask you directly, some of the members of your group are very critical of the tenor of board meetings, and some board members, how they work as a collective, not necessarily Kara herself, who tends to be kind of quiet sometimes. But your group, some of your board members some of your group members have been critical of how the school board functions, that they're out of touch, they're not transparent. What would you do differently?
Well, I think the problem I've seen in a lot of the meetings, and this is in particular to the architects of the school board, of the middle school design. These folks show up every few months, they put on a great presentation, and then they say, oh, by the way, there's going to be another $16 million. And the board just sits there and says, oh, okay. Well, that's when you stop, you ask questions, you figure out, okay, what is the increase in cost and why? And then what are we going to now cut out of that previous project or previous design so we don't have an additional $16 million? So this happened twice. It happened once when we decided to abandon Broken Ground and come back to South Street where Runlet is today. And then it happened again when they came back with a new design for Runlet. And each time the architect is just allowed to come in and say, we're getting a raise, and I hope you're all okay with that. And by them just sitting there and not asking questions assumes that they're just not thinking about what's going on here. The architects aren't in charge. They are working for the city of Concord, for the school district, and should be held accountable for what's been negotiated. And to that point, this is the current contract. It still lists Broken Ground as the site of construction. I don't understand this. Has this been amended? I don't think so.
Jeff, we're running up against the clock. I want to just get one more quick question and let you guys have closing statements. By all accounts, the late school superintendent Kathleen Murphy was respected and admired during her time here. She clearly enjoyed her work in Concord, not wanting to leave her work.
Yeah.
We love you, Kathleen. We do. Yeah. You're on the board. You're going to be hiring a new superintendent. Give me 3 words to describe traits that you would want to see in a new school superintendent.
Okay.
3 words.
3 words. Curriculum, accountability, and plans for the future.
We'll take future as the word.
I was like, wait, I get 6 because
Yeah,
you know,
no,
I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
I'm just kidding. For me, this is a tough one because I miss Kathleen very much. A bridge builder, a forward thinker, and someone who is present in the community, present in the classroom.
Excellent. That's it. 30 minutes runs real quick. We're going to go to closing statements now. Jeff, you go first. You have 1 minute.
Okay. All right, thank you all for listening. Concord is at a crossroads facing major decisions about spending, school facilities, and student outcomes. We need leadership that asks tough questions, demands clear answers, and focuses on what truly matters, giving our students the best education while keeping schools affordable for taxpayers. With over 40 years of IT experience managing complex business projects and solving hard problems, I'll bring a thoughtful, fact-based approach, one that looks carefully at the numbers and the impact on families before making decisions. I will always put Concord students first, families first, and taxpayers first. On November 4th, I ask for your vote so together we can build strong schools and a stronger community. Thank you.
Kara, 1 minute.
It has been an absolute pleasure to serve these last 3 years on the Concord School Board. I hope to have 3 more years. I serve as the board secretary, as the chair of the Policy and Communications Committee. I serve on several other committees, and I also attend committees I'm not even on because I want to be fully informed and represent you in the most thoughtful way possible. It really matters that we have experienced people on the board. We have 2 other new people coming on because we have 2 other positions running unopposed. And so for me to return means a return of somebody who has experience, who has been working for the last 3 years on the many challenges that face our district. I know the middle school is at front of mind, but there are so many other things going on, from transportation to curriculum to teacher contracts to absences. It's running a small version of a city, and you want people in the seat who have been doing the work and will continue to do the work. Thank you.
Those are the 2 candidates who will be on the ballot November 4th for the Zone B seat, which again is wards 5, 6, and 7. Voters in Zone A, 1, 2, 3, 4, and Zone C, 8, 9, 10, have people who are running unopposed. They have been offered free candidate profiles on Patch, so you'll get to know them, but they've won already, so they're not here. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuesday, November 4th. You can find information on the city's website in the election tab, or on my site as well. We'll have voter guides up the week before with the candidate questionnaires and everything else that had to do with the election for 2025. For Concord TV and Concord, New Hampshire Patch, I'm Tony Shinella. Thank you again for being with us, and we'll see you later.